Most people see struggle as a setback, but struggle is often the very signal that something great is about to be born. When you find yourself going through hardship, financial difficulty, rejection, betrayal, or even failure, it's not there to destroy you. It's there to define the value inside you. Too often, we try to run from the pain instead of realizing that pain has purpose. Pain is a messenger. It's trying to show you where your next level lies. If you look closely, you'll see that your struggle isn't there to stop you. It's there to serve you. I've discovered through life and through coaching thousands of entrepreneurs, business owners, and believers that the things you've been through are often the exact blueprint for the blessing God wants to bring through you. Your adversity becomes your advantage when you stop hiding from it and start harnessing it. People are not just looking for information. They are looking for transformation. And the transformation you've already gone through could be the answer to someone else's prayer. If you've been broke and figured out how to get out of debt, somebody's waiting to hear from you. If you've been through a divorce and healed, somebody is desperately needing your system of peace. If you've been rejected, laughed at, left out, and still rose, someone is struggling to do the same. The challenge is that most of us don't see the value in our own pain. We think, why would anybody care what I've been through? Or, I'm still trying to get together myself. But what if I told you that you don't have to be perfect to be profitable? You just have to be honest, transparent, and willing to serve. When you take your testimony and turn it into a tool, people don't just connect with you. They pay you, not because you're selling to them, but because you're solving something for them. Business at its core is solving problems for a profit. And the most authentic solutions come from personal struggle. The first thing you need to do is identify what you've overcome. Be honest with yourself. Don't downplay your past just because it's painful. The more intense the pain, the more valuable the process. Once you identify your pain point, the next step is to ask yourself, how did I get through this? What were the steps? What was the shift in mindset? What was the strategy, the habit, the decision that helped you move forward? That right there is your intellectual property. That right there is your gold mine. That right there is what people will pay to access. Most people walk around thinking they need a new job, a promotion, or a business idea to make more money. But what they really need is a new perspective on what they already possess. If you've been through something and you've come out stronger, you already have what it takes to create a product, a service, or a system that helps others. Whether that's coaching, consulting, writing, teaching, mentoring, creating digital content, or building a community around your transformation, there's income hiding in your outcome. You just have to mine it out. Let me make this practical. If you've been overweight and learned how to lose the weight and keep it off, that is a monetizable result. If you've been addicted and found your way to recovery, that journey is not just powerful, it's profitable. If you grew up in poverty and figured out how to build wealth, that is not just admirable, it's teachable. Every pain you've turned into progress can be packaged as a process. And when you give people access to that process in a structured and strategic way, they will pay you, not just for your time, but for your transformation. But in order to do that, you have to shift your internal identity. See, you can't expect the market to value what you offer if you don't value it first. That's why belief is the currency of breakthrough. You have to believe that your story matters. You have to believe that you have something to offer. You have to believe that people will pay you. Not because you're famous, but because you're faithful. You've shown up. You've pressed through. You found answers. And now it's time to share them. This is not about bragging. This is not about trying to look perfect. It's about being present. People don't connect to your perfection. They connect to your process. They connect to your flaws. They connect to your willingness to say, I've been where you are, and I've got a way out. And the truth is, many of you are sitting on million-dollar ideas, and you don't even know it. You've survived so much, and you've let that survival sit in silence. But the moment you decide to speak, to share, to serve, you activate a new flow. You start building streams of income that are directly tied to your authenticity. Let me give you a model. First, write down what you struggled with. Then, write down what you learned. Next, create steps from that learning. Those steps are now your framework. That framework can be a speech. That speech can become a webinar. That webinar can become a course. That course can become a coaching program. That coaching program can become a brand. That brand can become a business. That business can become a movement. And that movement can change not only your bank account, but your family's future for generations. It starts with recognizing that struggle wasn't there to shame you. It was there to shape you. When you realize that everything changes, you stop seeing yourself as a victim and you start showing up as a vessel. You stop hiding your past and you start harvesting it. You stop chasing opportunity and you start creating it. Too many people are waiting on the economy, waiting on the government, waiting on a job, waiting on a break. But I believe God already gave you the break. You just haven't built with it yet. You were given experience, insight, perspective, scars, and lessons not just for survival, but for service. And when you serve, you earn. When you lead, you prosper. When you transform others, you create income. Not because you manipulated, but because you multiplied.
One of the greatest mistakes people make is thinking that money only comes from what you do. But the truth is, wealth flows more powerfully from who you are and what you've been through. You've already been through some things in life that money can't buy and school can't teach. That experience, that survival, that pain, that wisdom, it's priceless. But because it came with scars, we tend to discount its value. We think no one would care, no one would understand, no one would invest. But if you could see what I see, you'd realize your life experience is not a liability. It's leverage. The truth is, most people are trying to run from their struggle instead of realizing that struggle is the very thing that qualifies them to lead, to teach, to inspire, to serve, and yes, to earn. We've been programmed to only value polished success. We look at the finished product, the big platforms, the nice cars, and think that's where value starts, but it doesn't. Value starts in the valley. It starts in the breakdown. It starts in the dark places. That's where the oil is pressed. That's where the story is born. That's where the lessons are learned. And that's where God begins to shape the next level of your purpose. Every struggle has a system buried in it. And if you're willing to unpack it, document it, refine it, and teach it, you can generate income that flows from authenticity, not effort. I'm not talking about faking it. I'm talking about mining out what's real. That divorce, that bankruptcy, that failed business, that season of depression, that time when you were homeless or hopeless. It all taught you something. And there are people on the other side of the world, or sitting next to you in church, who are begging for the answers you already carry. The reason most people never turn their struggle into income is because they're still emotionally attached to it. They haven't healed enough to talk about it without shame. They haven't processed it enough to teach it without breaking down. But when you stop hiding from your history and start harvesting it, everything changes. You stop resenting your past and start respecting it, because that's where your wealth is hidden. Your next level isn't about finding something new. It's about fully owning what you've already survived. When you realize that your story has value, you begin to view your entire life differently. You no longer say, I went through all that for nothing. You say, I went through that for this. There is someone who will pay you to show them what you learned. There is someone who would love to skip the 10 years it took you to figure it out. There is someone who would give anything for the insight you think is ordinary. But you have to shift your mindset from why me to why not me. Why not be the one who builds a business from their testimony? Why not be the one who turns failure into framework? Why not be the one who writes the book, launches the program, builds the community, teaches the class, starts the podcast, or preaches the message? Because that's how you go from being a victim of your struggle to becoming a vehicle of impact. People are not looking for perfection. They're looking for connection. They don't need you to be a guru. They need you to be real. When you share your struggles with honesty and humility, you create trust. And trust is the foundation of every great business. Nobody buys from someone they don't trust, and nobody trusts someone they can't relate to. The most powerful leaders in any industry are the ones who own their scars and speak from their lessons. They don't hide their pain, they package it. They don't run from their mistakes, they monetize them. If you want to turn your struggles into streams of income, you have to stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like a messenger. Employees trade time for money. Messengers trade transformation for value. You don't get paid by the hour. You get paid by the outcome you create. And the greatest outcomes come from helping people through problems you've personally overcome. That's not just business. That's legacy. That's purpose. That's ministry. And that's impact on a level that changes lives, shifts cultures, and builds generational wealth. So many people are sitting on a gold mine because they think their story is too messy, too broken, too complicated. But the mess is what makes the message powerful. If it were easy, it wouldn't carry weight. If it were perfect, it wouldn't reach the right people. But when people see what you've come through, when they hear your truth, when they feel your sincerity, they buy into your process because they believe it will work for them too. And that belief is what drives action. That action is what builds your business. And that business is what becomes the stream of income that didn't come from a job or a degree. It came from your journey. What I love about this approach is that it's repeatable. Once you do it once, you can do it again. Every season of your life has something to teach, and every lesson has something to sell. You go through something new, you extract the lesson, you build the system, and now you've got another stream. It never stops because growth never stops. Evolution never stops. And as long as you're learning, you're earning. But to truly live this, you have to make a decision. You have to stop disqualifying yourself. You have to stop waiting for the right moment. You have to stop waiting until it's all together. You have to decide that what you've already lived through is enough to launch with. It's enough to build with. It's enough to start with. You don't need 1 million followers. You need one story that sets people free. You don't need to be famous. You need to be faithful. Faithful to the process. Faithful to your purpose. Faithful to the people you're called to help. Because when you're faithful to pour out what you've learned, the income takes care of itself. Money becomes a byproduct of meaning. And I know some of you are thinking, but Myron, I'm still struggling. I haven't figured it all out yet. That's okay. Teach from where you are. Share from the middle. People need to see the process in real time. You don't have to wait until the chapter closes to help someone who's still on page 1. You are qualified not by perfection, but by progress. Every breakthrough you've had, no matter how small, can lead someone else out of bondage. And when you serve at that level, from that place of authenticity and heart, the income becomes inevitable. The thing about life is, it never asks for permission before it teaches you a lesson. Some of the most valuable insights you'll ever gain won't come from books or seminars. They'll come from your own experiences, especially the painful ones. Struggle doesn't show up in your life just to inconvenience you. It shows up to introduce you to your potential. It shows up to shape you, mold you, refine you, and in many cases promote you. But that promotion only comes if you're willing to learn the lesson and then leverage it. Most people stop at learning. Very few make the shift into leveraging. That's why they stay stuck. When I say you can turn your struggles into streams of income, I'm not being cute. I'm being strategic. The economy you're waiting on is already inside your story. The money you think you need is hidden inside a problem you've already solved. The transformation you've already gone through is proof that you don't need another course, another certificate, or another approval to get started. You need clarity, you need confidence, you need a new mindset. You need to stop seeing your past as punishment and start seeing it as preparation. Everything you've been through is raw material for your next level. Let me tell you a truth that will set some of you free. Your struggle was never meant to disqualify you. It was meant to define you. The pain you endured was permitted so you could produce. The hurt you experienced wasn't in vain. It was allowed so that healing could flow through you to others. You've been crying over what happened to you, not realizing what it's preparing to do through you. You've been hiding your story out of fear, but God's about to use that very story to fund your vision. If you're willing to be honest about your process, you'll be amazed at how many people are waiting to pay you for what you almost kept to yourself. You see, most people are taught to monetize talent. But I'm telling you today, it's your truth that will unlock your treasure. Your transparency will become your trademark. The very things you thought made you unqualified are the things that will make you unforgettable. That trauma you survived, that's income. That time you lost everything and rebuilt from scratch, that's income. That season you felt invisible, undervalued, and overlooked, that's income. But only if you're willing to revisit it, restructure it, and release it into the world in the form of service. What keeps most people broke isn't lack of opportunity. It's the belief that they have nothing to offer. But that belief is a lie. You have something inside of you that no one else on earth has. The way you think, the way you feel, the way you've come through what you've come through. There's no copy of you. That means there's no copy of your solution. But as long as you keep measuring yourself by the standards of the world, likes, followers, credentials, you'll keep shrinking your value to fit into boxes you were never meant to sit in. You weren't made to blend in. You were made to build something new, and that something new is waiting on you to stop second, guessing what you've already proven in your own life. There is somebody out there right now who is praying for the wisdom you already carry. They are in the exact place you used to be, and they're scrolling, searching, signing up, hoping to find someone who understands. You could be that answer. You could be the bridge. You could be the solution. But first, you've got to make peace with your past. You've got to forgive the people who hurt you. You've got to stop looking at yourself as broken and start seeing yourself as built to withstand storms, built to endure pressure, built to bounce back, built to lead. People don't need more experts. They need more examples. They need to see that it's possible to rise from nothing. They need to see that it's possible to fail and still flourish. They need to see that it's possible to be rejected and still reinvent yourself. They need to see that it's possible to walk through the fire and still come out refined instead of burned. That's the type of leadership that changes lives. That's the type of voice that creates income, not just in the marketplace, but in the mindsets of generations. When you take time to turn your struggle into a system, you create freedom, because now you have a process. You have a roadmap. You can show people step by step how you did it. That's not just inspiring. That's valuable. People pay for clarity. They pay for direction. They pay to avoid the mistakes you made. So don't just tell your story emotionally. Build it strategically. Identify the turning points. Define the patterns. Clarify the breakthrough moments. Document the method. That's how your life becomes your legacy. You might be thinking, but Myron, I've never made money before from what I know. That's okay. Most people haven't yet, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. It just means you haven't packaged it yet. It hasn't been positioned correctly. Maybe you've shared your story before, but it was raw, unfiltered, and unfocused. Now it's time to refine it, aim it, and deliver it as a service, a system, or a signature offer. There are coaches, speakers, writers, creators, and consultants who don't know half of what you know, but they're out-earning you because they made the decision to show up boldly, not because they're better, but because they believed. Belief is the beginning of every breakthrough. You will never rise above the image you have of yourself. You will never earn more than you think you deserve. So before you increase your bank account, you have to increase your self-concept. You have to start seeing yourself as someone with answers, with wisdom, with insight. You've got to see your pain as profit. Your past is not a prison. It's a platform. The very thing you thought disqualified you is about to open more doors than you can imagine. You are the brand. Your story is the business. Your transformation is the product. And your obedience is the fuel. When you align your truth with your calling, income is no longer just about money. It becomes ministry. It becomes meaning. It becomes the reward for being willing to serve out of your scars, not just your skills. You don't need to be discovered. You need to be developed. Most people are sitting around waiting for a miracle moment, when in reality, God already placed everything they need inside of them. You're waiting on resources when you haven't yet activated your resourcefulness. You're praying for opportunity while ignoring the opportunity that lives in your experience. Your struggles didn't show up to destroy your destiny. They came to unlock it. And until you recognize that what you've been through is the very foundation of what you're called to build, you'll keep treating your history like a handicap when it's actually your harvest. There's a reason God allowed certain things to happen to you. There's a reason you survived what others didn't. There's a reason you went through rejection, lack, pain, betrayal, and hardship, and still made it out. That wasn't luck. That was design. That was intentional. That was preparation. The trials weren't just a test of faith. They were a training ground for purpose. You were being prepared for people who would one day need the version of you that exists on the other side of that storm. You're not here just to exist. You're here to serve, to shift, to solve. And income is a natural byproduct of solving real problems. Most people think they have a money problem, but what they really have is a value problem. They don't see value in what they carry. They think their story is too broken or too ordinary. They think no one would listen or pay attention. But what they don't realize is that their most painful experience could be the exact thing someone else is looking for right now. Your breakthrough is someone else's blueprint. Your process is someone else's path. Your voice is the missing piece to someone's victory. But if you don't open your mouth, if you don't create the product, if you don't launch the message, they remain stuck and you remain broke. Not because God didn't give you enough, but because you didn't steward what He gave you. It's not about waiting for your life to be perfect before you move. It's about moving with what you've got right now. Most people think they need more credentials, more followers, more money, or more clarity before they start. But starting is what brings the clarity. Taking action is what creates momentum. And momentum is where multiplication lives. God doesn't bless perfection. He blesses movement. When you start to build, when you start to speak, when you start to serve from a place of realness and obedience, the resources show up, the doors open, the people come, and the income flows. Not because you forced it, but because you finally aligned your pain with your purpose. You don't need another idea. You need to execute on the revelation you already have. You already lived through enough to teach, to coach, to create, to speak, to empower, to shift atmospheres. The question is not whether you're qualified. The question is whether you'll be courageous enough to show up. The world doesn't reward hidden wisdom. It rewards revealed solutions. And if you want your struggles to become streams, you have to be willing to structure what you've learned. You've got to package the pain, create a process, define the transformation, and put a price on the outcome. When people pay, they pay attention. So don't let guilt or imposter syndrome make you feel bad for charging. You're not selling your trauma. You're stewarding your transformation. You're giving people a shortcut through your scars, and that has value, not because you said so, but because your results say so. You've walked through fire and didn't quit. You've seen the valley and didn't give up. You found a way to keep going. That experience is priceless, and it deserves to be respected, honored, and monetized. Not out of greed, but out of alignment with your assignment. There is a divine economy, and in it, money flows where value is perceived and results are proven. You don't have to be famous to be fruitful. You don't need a massive platform to make massive impact. You just need to get clear on who you're called to help, how you can help them, and what your process looks like. When you get that clarity, you gain confidence. And when you move with confidence, people follow. They buy, they believe, they transform. And when people transform, income becomes sustainable, not just because of a marketing funnel or sales pitch, but because of trust, alignment, and transformation. There are people right now who are tired of fakes. They don't want hype. They want real. They want someone who understands, someone who's walked through the fire, someone who won't judge their pain, someone who's been there, done that, and still believes in what's possible. You are that someone, but they'll never know it unless you show up. You'll never help them if you keep waiting for perfect conditions. Conditions will never be perfect. The timing will never feel right. But your obedience will always produce fruit when you take the first step. Stop comparing your beginning to someone else's middle. Stop thinking your story doesn't matter because it's not flashy. What you went through is the thing that will make your voice different, your offer unique, your leadership deep. God didn't allow that pain to be wasted. He intends to multiply it, but only if you're willing to move. The longer you sit on your struggle, the longer you delay your stream. The longer you ignore your wisdom, the longer you stay broke. You're not broke because of lack. You're broke because of unmonetized experience. You don't need to go viral. You need to get valuable. Value comes when you solve problems. Value grows when you serve people. Value compounds when you stay consistent. And consistency is the seed for compound income. That's how wealth is built, not overnight, not from luck, but from learning how to turn what you've been through into a process that others can follow. You've already paid the price in tears, in time, in trials. Now it's time to let that investment pay you back, but it only pays you back when you put it to work. You can't keep your wisdom locked up and expect wealth to chase you down. It's time to document what you've lived. Map out the moments that changed you. Write down the steps you took. Create the roadmap, build the framework, design the process. Offer it to those who are stuck where you used to be. Make it simple. Make it powerful. Make it transformational. People don't need more noise. They need your system. And when you build that system from a place of purpose and alignment, income starts showing up, not as a reward for talent, but as a reward for obedience.